Killer. My name is Joe. These are just opinions. I am JOEpinionated. Today, I start a new series, Joe IQ, where I interview and question people that inspire me. Today, on episode 1 of Joe IQ, I have an artist, a poster artist these days, Jesse Pruet. Artist name is Nemo.
Yeah, I got the name when I was younger, much younger. Pretty much the only people that refer to me as Jesse anymore are my family.
Tell me a little bit about who you are.
I'm an illustrator based out of Minneapolis currently, born in Wyoming, moved all around the country, most recently from California.
How did you start with art? Where did that start for you? What kind of art were you initially introduced to?
Art was always a big thing for me. Born in Wyoming. My mom is militant atheist feminist and my dad was Mormon. They split. I ended up moving around the country a lot with my family in pursuit of education and happiness. Because we moved so much, pretty much one of the consistent things in my life was art. New place, I could show drawings to kids and be like, hey, check this out. And they'd be like, that's so cool. That was a kind of an in as well as a private space for myself that I felt in control of. And it was one of the very few things that very different families, both agreed on that was cool. Primarily when I was a kid, I was interested in comic books, Ninja Turtles all day long, superhero stuff. One fateful day, I was at a comic book store and found an issue of the old Akira, the ones that are in color that they had, 1 through 52. And it just blew my mind. Game changing. There's also this external pressure of being more serious, not only from parents and adult figures, but also from my peers who were like, oh, comics are for kids. I never really believed that because I knew at some level that I would never grow up. I am turning 40 in February.
Okay, so we're pretty much the same age. When did you move into this is going to be a bit more of a career for me?
For better or worse, I always had the idea that I would be an artist. I think when I was younger, I thought it would be much more than it turned out to be. I heard about Art Crumb trading a sketchbook for a castle, and I was like, okay. I had a lot of jobs. I was a melon breeder for Harris Moran, working for
the devil,
and then got a job working for another biotech company.
What was the next gig?
I actually sold off everything I owned, and I moved to Mexico. I was going to film a documentary with my good friends who I lived in Japan with for a year about the Brujas or the witch doctors. Canceled the project. So I got stuck in Mexico with a backpack full of clothes and a guitar. I made a mural because I was like, I'm gonna make myself an international artist. Painted a mural at the local skate park. Someone came by the local expat bar, which I was at. I'm looking for the person that painted the mural. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna get in trouble. I knew it. And they're like, oh, we want you to paint a mural for our business. Kind of steamrolled into, a clandestine mural painting business after mural painting season, which there is a season in Mexico where mural painting occurs. Really weird and cool. I love it. Head back to the States. Went back, worked at a liquor store in Oakland for a bit. Did foam sculptures for Netflix and Facebook. The girl that I was, and if you're listening, Marion, it didn't work out between us. Also, though, Oakland is incredibly dope. I really do love the Bay Area. That's pretty cool. It is changing rapidly like every major metropolis in the US. I started in Oakland for a few years. I lived in an art commune, a really cool spot to be in. And then I ended up moving to San Francisco into a basically what was a rave house, helped manage. And that was my day job, or night job. Worked 2-3 days a week doing these after hours parties. After 2 of those, that paid for rent and food for the entire month. That was the catalyst for the poster gigs to start. And so I would go to local shows, and my wife at the time, just an amazing violin player, was just incredible. So I'd go to shows with her and I'd talk to bands, and I'd be like, hey, first poster is free. Any other poster is $30. I think it's hard to say no to a poster design for $30, so.
No doubt. Do you remember the first poster that you purchased?
Yeah, there was one in Japan that I bought. It was, I don't even remember the band, but it was a rocking jelly bean. I was young. I was just out of high school. And, living in Japan, really feeling like I had the world ahead of me, and saw this poster and something lit up in me. I was like, this is the coolest thing.
The first poster artist that you followed, okay, that's somebody that I want to make sure I catch everything he puts out, or she.
Probably Emic was the one for me. You know, being in San Francisco, and we had the Fillmore there, and you go in and they have those walls covered with posters, all of their show posters. And I went there. It was the last show of the Hive's international tour that had been going on for 2 years, the Tyrannosaurus Rex tour. And I was so stoked because, you know, like the Hives for me were huge, you know, a bunch of like Swedish cats and fucking tuxes, you know, and,
Yeah.
you know, just going crazy. I remember being so excited and wanting to get to the stage, but like hitting that wall of posters and just being like, my God, what is this? This is where it is, man. This is the epicenter of cool. Like, this is, you know, music, art.
In San Fran at the Fillmore.
Yeah. Stanley Mouse is from there. I've gotten to hang with him, draw with him a little bit. That was fun.
Was it him that did the Grateful Art thing? Or the Grateful Dead logo?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
He's got a very, very lovely Sprinter van, which I'm jealous of.
Are you a musician?
I wouldn't put myself in the upper echelon of musicianship, of course. You know, I've got clubs for hands and my voice sounds like it's been stuffed with gravel and thistle, but you know, I do play and I do have, you know, like a short set that I could, you know, get out at any moment that I consider solid enough that, you know, it would pass muster, you know. So if they're like, oh no, the band's not quite ready yet, we need 20 minutes, I'm like, I got this, you know, that ever hope, you know.
Have you performed?
Yeah, I used to.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done a number of performances, some more successful than others. I've had positive responses where people have been like, hell yeah, buying drinks, we're excited. And then I've had the show where 2 of my bandmates didn't show up and like I had to perform for a tomato festival by myself and like design the whole thing to be 3 people. Brad.
What was your break and who helped? So like, what was the point where like you did a poster or art and who helped you kind of get over the hump?
I think the last and possibly biggest hump that I got over was the Southpark show. That was the accumulation of so many people's assistance, you know, through the time. You know, I was really determined to make every poster better than the last one. So I was working with a company called Kalafari, and Kalafari at the time was doing basically weed posters. So they would give you a varietal of weed and they were like, okay, do a poster based on that, which is, you know, fucking brilliant. This guy, Jason, gave me a call, gave me an assignment of doing a poster called Pancakes.
So he got you to do this poster here.
I did that poster. It was one of those posters that did not come super easily. You know, I had anxiety about like getting it done or whatever. It was like a real struggle, but it did finally come together. You know, I submitted it, I got paid for it, which is always really nice. And then I kind of forgot about it.
How long ago was that?
I think that was 3 years ago at this point.
Pancakes a band?
No, Pancakes is a weed variety. And so time went on, and then I got a call from him, and he was just like, hey, Southpark, they're gonna give you a call. It was kind of an awkward time. He's like, they're gonna call tomorrow, and it was my dad had just died the previous week, not even a week ago. It was just like this really intense thing about being like if this was anything else, I would never even consider picking up the phone. You know, I did. Their manager called, just super nice guy, really incredible in a lot of ways. And he said that, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Trey Parker, had seen the poster, Pancakes. Basically, whenever someone got in trouble, like at the show, or like he would just kind of go around and be like, why can't we do anything like this ever? Which, you know, I was just like, wow, this story is just totally worthless. This is what I need right now.
Wow.
But I said, long and short of it, they're having a giant concert for their 25th anniversary, and they want me to do a poster. And I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, no problem. Here are the stipulations. You get to do like basically whatever you want. We really like this poster though. You won't get any of the posters, but we will pay you for what you would make. So usually in the poster business, you may make a small design fee, but really what happens is they give you a stack of posters. It's called a split stack agreement. Yeah, and you sell yours after, you know, they sell at the show, with them first tooth into it.
Do you make the art and then present it to the artist or management?
Every person's different. Usually on the national level, management is pretty cool. If I was to do a local bands tend to be more interested in control, subject matter, kind of what's going on, partially because they're so excited about it that they they want to participate in the activity, right?
Right.
It's been a lifelong dream of theirs to be in a band, to like have a poster is a very legitimizing thing in a lot of ways. Also, because they are new, they really have to work to control kind of how they're perceived. So all these factors kind of go in to be like more control. But you get to a national level and there's usually maybe like one or two sentences of, hey man, we don't want any more ducks. Just stop. Ween, for example, was like, don't put the boogenish on a body of any sort. To humanize perfection is to error, which I love, and it makes total sense to me. There's like one or two guidelines and then they give you the room. Personally, like to produce 2 or 3 rough drawings, then send to management. I'm assuming shares them with the band. People are busy anyway, so they might not be seeing these things. That gives people kind of some options.
What to do with it.
It shows that one, you have more than one idea. They can come to you and you can, pull out ideas. 2, if they don't like anything that's going on, or something that's going on there, you're able to create a vector of ideas, right? So like the super classic, what you would expect, something like way off the wall, and something that's kind of a mix of those things. Okay. That way you don't get, we don't like it, try it again. You're going to start to have a conversation about trying to get to the point that they want to get to.
The next question is, have you designed any tattoos for like your friends or just in general? How deep into the tattoo thing have you got?
I have been apprenticed at 2 shops for very little time. One, I kind of like moved on from, they hired someone else for like what they said a better balance in the shop. And then the other shop that I went to, I was apprenticed in, was in San Francisco. To make $1,000, I had to bring you $10,000 worth of business. Mathematically, the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
When is the first time you remember like a friend asking you to do a tattoo for them or to like draw up a tattoo for them?
So in high school, I had a friend.
Yeah.
Mike, you're out there, Mike. This is the worst tattoo story ever. Mike came over. My parents were gone for like a weekend. They left me money for pizza, rented a movie at the movie store, back when we had those. Crash of all things.
Now that's the one, is that the one in the car, like the sex one, or is it the...
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Took a little top off of every single thing that my parents had in their liquor cabinet and, mixed it into a slurry.
Oh, yeah.
And we're drinking out of that, which was just the worst. There was a point during this film where one of the characters gets a steering wheel tattooed onto their chest. I remember watching this and just being like, man, what a choice. And then my friend Mike turns to me and goes,
dude, you got to give me a tattoo.
And I was like, man, I don't have a tattoo machine.
He's like, oh no, I know how to do this.
And like, we taped together a bunch of needles. It was even ballpoint ink. It was the worst of the worst. He was just smart as a whip. He was one of the guys that helped decode the human genome later on. Super into math. I tattooed the pi symbol on him.
Is there a niche art movement that you follow?
I went to visit my little brother in Oaxaca. And have you ever been to Oaxaca?
I don't know where Oaxaca is.
Oh, it's in Mexico. Yeah.
Okay, no, I have not.
It's really cool, very vibrant. Got a lot going on the bus from the airport into the center of Oaxaca. Was that there were all these wheat pasted relief prints all over the place. Like hyper socialists had 43 students go missing. They got on a bus and then they just disappeared, and no one knew where they were. Everybody had assumed that they were murdered, and it has turned out in the past year or two, they've discovered that they were all just horribly murdered. And so this created this huge movement of, we will find you, all these like really kind of like grassroots movements of, like if you go missing, we will not stop looking for you. These posters are everywhere. They're incredibly powerful. They're like kind of the inequality is systemic as it is everywhere, but also very pronounced in Mexico due to a number of reasons. It's very politically vibrant. And as you go through there, Oaxaca, there are these just incredibly beautiful relief prints that are wheat pasted up on walls everywhere. Illegal, stark, graphic images, but they also get a lot of influence from tattoo culture as well. They've got these machetes with like sayings in them and like skulls and shit. Like they had this whole series of multiple machetes across the city. I spent my entire vacation with my little brother translating, bless his heart, going around and finding these print shops who kind of work in this weird gray space of being like, we're print shops, we're very happy. Someone comes up with a design and we carve out a 4 foot by 8 foot print with, the little Japanese carving tools, print off a bunch of these prints, and then the next evening we go up and wheat paste them. Incredible. And so many just amazing artists are coming out of there as well.
I want to talk about Ween. So I found Nemo through the weenposterlove group on Facebook. That's how I came across, obviously, this print. I guess because of South Park, they were definitely on your radar, but how much was Ween on your radar before you did this poster, or maybe the South Park poster?
So Ween was kind of the reason that I started making music. In college, I would listen to music like 24/7. I would always have headphones on, was always listening to music. At some point, I was like, man, it just feels a little disrespectful to this art form to consider myself like a fan of it without really understanding what goes into making it. Then I heard Ween, and Ween has that magic that they're just like, you don't have to really give a shit about it to do it. I mean, not to insinuate that they don't incredibly pull it off, and I think they actually do really give a shit about it.
Yeah.
But there's something about the feeling behind it that kind of eases a lot of the anxiety and the elitism of that art form. And so I got an electric guitar and like plugged it in. This was right when GarageBand was first coming out. I would just record myself playing guitar and then listen to it and cut snippets that worked, and then like loop them, add drums, and then sing really bad songs. I feel so bad for my girlfriend at the time, and had a recording studio with all the instruments in his house, like violin, electric drum set, everything, it just was like ready to go. And like, yeah, you can go over there and record music, but he'll make you listen to one of his awful songs. And so, I really wish I had more people that I was playing with at the time, but I was super shy.
So you were a fan of Ween at a fairly young age then.
Yeah.
Do you remember an album in particular?
No, so I did get everything in bulk. That was because she was just like, oh, this is this band that we really like here in New York. I listened to Little Birdie first, and I was like, oh, this is it, Yeah. And I was always into really weirdo music. I think the album that I'm most in love with, which is going to be really controversial, like any of these statements for Ween,
love it,
is La Cucaracha. Some people are just right now just writing letters to me.
No, man, no, I love it too. No, please.
I think it's great. It's the first album that I got to purchase on my own instead of, like inheriting through someone else's knowledge. Like I found the date that it was coming out, went to the Tower Records, got mine, and I loved it. I remember everybody else being like, I don't know, it doesn't sound very Ween-like to me, and was like, I don't know, it's great. Like Blue Balloon, Your Party.
I absolutely fucking love that album too. I think it's an incredible. I think that a lot of like the Ween hardcores, I mean, there's every generation. There's the people that are just strictly the first couple albums. There's people that are strictly like the big studio ones in the middle. And then there's a Quebec. It's Quebec or no way.
Once I got the date and everything, I basically started drawing and really went through a bunch of iterations. This one, I went through many more iterations than any other poster that I've ever done. I think because for me, Ween is such a big deal and means a lot to me. I wanted to like get it right. First version was a cowboy on a nautilus, the kind of bucking bronco, a family all like smiling really big and a little bit crazy, carving a roast, but in the marbling of the roast, there was the Bougonish. Another one called Call of the Nautilus that like you see from a worm's, like from the bottom of the lake, and as you're looking up, you can see these tentacles motioning towards someone who's like diving into the lake, excited, aglow, and above there's like like a boat with his friends looking over, and in the moon there's the Booganish, kind of leering. The one was a genie, Arabian Nights kind of scene, and a guy that was lifting up a genie lamp into the sky, and out of the genie lamp, the Booganish like kind of was like pouring out of, with like all these references to the song. So there was like weasels, like roses, like like pieces of shit, a gas pump, like things like that. Which that one is fully complete. The second complete poster was, I had the skull from this one in it with the brain, but had a guy that was like in a full suit and had a bunch of pins on him and some cowboy boots with holes in them that like were like birdhouses. Even though I create 3 ideas for every single poster I do, like I never recycle ideas, not even the ones that I don't use. Oh, but what about this one that I saw the rough for, which I sent her like a very loose idea of it. It's like, I really like that design. And I was just like, oh my God, like at that point I hadn't slept for 2 days. I think I had 2 hours of sleep in 2 days.
Wow.
And I was like, I will make this happen. And so I stayed up for an entire 3rd extra day on 2 hours of sleep, like just doing it. I was like, we're gonna do this. This is Ween. So I produced it. I drew it out, got it done, and then sent it off to the printers, and then promptly fell asleep for a day.
You send it off to the printers, you had the colors already figured out. How do you determine, like, when you're sending it off to the printers, you're not there when they're screening it?
So the people that print my posters, it's a group called Burlesque in North America, and they are, one of, if not the best silk screeners in the nation. I mean, just an incredible group of people doing incredible things. Shout out to Ben, my guy for sure. They work incredibly hard, and they produce a class of poster that I don't think I could compete with. It just allows me to keep doing what I love, which is drawing really weird shit. Yeah, so the colors are picked beforehand, and then they get sent off. Possible variation does occur with the color making, depending on process of like multiple artisans working together, which is another reason why I like it. It's a collaboration. I trust my printers, and so if they make like a slight color, change, I'm not going to be like horribly offended unless it's really bad or like very far off of what I intended.
Do you ever use anything other than white for the background, or for the paper color? Sorry,
I've used black once before. I did do you know Folsom? I used to live off of Folsom, like a block. And so this was annually just kind of part of my life in San Francisco. I contacted them to do the poster, and they accepted, which was really a wonderful experience for me. But yeah, this was printed on black because so much of that print is black. The worst prints I've ever received. There's a photo of me signing these posters that is the most depressed I've ever seen. My girlfriend just took a picture of me signing them, and we still look at it and laugh. Like at the time, there was no laughing. But
I'm gonna need that for sure. You send them off. They send you a copy, or they just send you a picture? How does that work? Like when it's done, they fire you copies of it right away, or they fire it to the band and then the band fires your copies over to you, or like gives you your copies?
Different management companies work in different ways, of course, and it really depends. One of the reasons I like working with Burlesque is because they are located locally. One, it means that I get to make my way over there, and then I get to number and sign all the prints, which one gives me an opportunity to basically quality assure them. Two, signing them and numbering them is really great for collectors, so I know really like that. I like to give the collectors everything that they've ever wanted, sometimes more. I basically take my stack at that point.
You're trying to do doodles and things like that too? Like
I don't do doodles for the band's posters. Ween was an edition of 500 for the regulars. You know how they're like, oh, people who are intelligent stay up later, and then you have that one friend that's like, oh, I'm gonna stay up late now. It's like, no, that's not Not because of that, man.
The day comes, the concert day comes, and I'm guessing that's when you found our group online. Or were you already in the Ween poster group, or that's when you kind of joined up?
Yeah, I had signed up a couple days earlier because I knew this was coming.
And on that day, so like the poster goes out, you're sitting there and watching the Ween site and maybe just a couple poster groups and stuff like that. And how does that feel, man? To see the reactions that you're getting for this art and on that day. Take me to that day. How were you feeling that day? Were you nervous or like, where was your head at?
I mean, I always get pre-show jitters, right? Sometimes you're on that altar and you're like, man,
is this sheep going to be enough? Like,
yeah, very satanic, but you know, like you just kind of worry, like, did I put enough into this to like, you know, have I given enough to the people that like matter to me in my life that don't know me at all? That kind of goes into the pre-show jitters. At this day, I woke up, had the pre-show jitters, you know, was waiting for posts, you know, because I cannot post the full image until the band posts the full image. That's like kind of like a courtesy thing. I was waiting for that, and I got the worst news that I could ever get for a poster, which is the date is wrong. Ironically enough, the first poster I produced of the genie coming out of the bottle, the date is correct on that one. Submitted this one, and the date was incorrect, which was on me. And then management unfortunately did not catch it because, you know, they're busy running a show and doing everything that they do.
You've already signed them all?
Oh yeah, they had been signed. They were already off. You know, I was in my festival clothes.
Yeah.
You know, like got everything good, my hair greased back kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was just, you know, I got this email and I was like, dear God. And the management group was incredible. They were just super kind. They're like, we love your work. The imaging is incredibly popular. People love it. Can you quickly produce one with the correct date? Yeah, no problem. You know, it took me 5 minutes, of course, to fix it.
Yeah.
And then
9 to an 8?
Yep, 9 to an 8. Yeah, the stroke of a pen.
Yeah.
The stroke of a pen. They then put up on their website, you know, the correct foil edition, which sold out in minutes.
Were you just incredibly grateful to read all that stuff, or were you at the show and not really paying attention to it at this point?
I basically was like, you know, in a tizzy. My girlfriend came over with some very nice whiskey. We had a glass or two of whiskey, which allowed me to like calm down enough. You know, I wasn't like running around the house, like tearing paintings off the wall or anything crazy like that because I'm, you know, older now. But, you know, I was like, oh, okay, you know, done it. And just like communicating with them about like, okay, like what can we do? Is there anything that I can do? Like, you know, just feeling horrible because, you know, it's something I care about very deeply.
Yeah.
And it was like, it's totally fine. Yeah, like they told me that the poster had sold out in minutes. They will be calling me again for another poster, which look forward to. I will get everything right that time. This is just what it is. Like you not having a good time at the show isn't going to change that. Went out to have some sushi, you know, to be like, okay, this is still like a big deal for me and a good event to be at and be a part of. And I feel really good. The alternate color posters were for charity. And like most of them sold out. So the Minnesota Trans Health Alliance, this is a charity that has been essentially a lot of their state work for HIV testing and stuff has been essentially defunded. It's a larger community. And so I was like, if I can donate a few posters to make some money for people that need it and can really use it, that's the best thing that I can do. Had some sushi and then got to the show and then immediately got food poisoning from the sushi. Struggling to like stand and listen to the show.
So you left early, or did you make it?
No, I taped the whole thing. God damn it!
Right. Yeah. Wow, good for you, man.
It was great. You know, so like I was really happy to be there. I know it could have felt better in a lot of ways. I would have loved to be in the throng of everyone dancing. I got a signed version of the poster.
When the band signs the posters, so I have a few Ween posters. And I've got some signed ones and stuff like that for sure. But the ones that I've signed, honestly, like I got one in my dining room. It's a James Flames one or whatever. And I just wish it wasn't signed, just because it kind of does block out some of the art. And I'm always like, fuck, why did you sign it there? Why didn't you sign it there? I was actually looking at the signed copies of this one, and I actually really like the placement where they were signing stuff or whatever. It really didn't interfere. Diener was signing a lot up in the ween, and Gina was signing a lot in the middle, or yeah, in this area here. It makes a difference to me, but like, so for you to see with the band's writing on there, that doesn't bother you at all? It's not a ween thing. It's just an artist in general thing.
Artists, we have this idea that we like possess our art throughout time. I think we're very territorial creatures, but for me, I really think like once I kind of release the work, and a lot of the reasons I work in print is to release work, is that it kind of becomes more than just me, right? Which is the nature of collaboration within the gig poster world. I'm not just working, creating images that I think are really cool, but it's images that I think are really cool that work within the context of the band, that like the band helps navigate, and then the fans then navigate with me, and I get feedback from, right? That's a huge collaboration to be a part of. I do have copies of the Southpark posters that were signed by Matt and Trey, which was just super generous of them to do. It was great. But the Tegrity Farms one, I forget who offhand, but one of the guys just signed directly over her face.
I see it as like a stamp of approval in one sense, like it's kind of marrying the artist with the band. Just the one I have in my living room. I'll put it up on the screen here or whatever, and I'll let you guys decide. Which bands have the best reputation for poster art? Is it a band? Are there some bands in particular that kind of have a higher level of poster art?
When you're asking what bands have the best poster art, in a lot of ways, I think the real question behind that is kind of what sort of poster art do you prefer? Bands like Tool, right, are going to have very different poster art, from bands like Fish. Both are incredibly big poster art driven bands. I do have to say Tool is doing some really interesting things with hitting up like not quote unquote poster artists, but actual artists like so I am so sorry. That sounded so elitist. Studio artists, I should say. Who are like working with galleries and stuff like that. And I think that's a really interesting move by them. Magic the Gathering is doing that too now. They have a run of like artist cards or whatnot, or what they're calling it. But
what is your favorite poster that you have made up to date? Like as far as the stuff on your website, what would be your favorite?
So if all of my children were drowning.
Is there something that's you're just like, that's like, so far that one really represents me?
This one was for a high art competition. This was like one of the first, kind of larger scale posters that I did in the hopes of winning $10,000. This image in a lot of ways garnered me a lot of attention in a different number of places. And it's just really beautiful in person. I paid to have it printed out, used a digital embossing machine. And so it's got these raised UV gloss lines all through it that like tangle through the piece. This piece is just very much me, semi Art Nouveau, tangly, a lot going on.
What do you think of variants like foils? Have you worked with them much? How does that change your process? Like, do you decide where the foil goes? Is that strictly a print shop thing? How does that work?
Usually I'm in charge of kind of how foils work. I honestly like control. I direct what foil is used, where the foil is used. Pretty much every print these days has foil. Some bands, they don't get foil made for themselves. But, for my prints, I'll have those printed on foil. People, one, really like to have variety. The idea of purchasing into scarcity, which is why we number our prints, to make sure that there's not more than a certain amount made. People know how much is going. I fall within that as, someone who collects records and comic books and all that stuff. Sometimes the foil game is a little lackluster. I really work to make sure that my foil is integrated in a way that I think is part of the image. Nothing pains me more than seeing a weak foil game. I do like alternate color versions. I did it for Ween, obviously. This is the secondary version. So Disco Biscuits has their own printer that they use for their works. And I think they use Triple Stamp Press, if I'm not mistaken, and they did a great job. I gave them the file to print from, And this was an example, essentially, of I wanted to do a glow-in-the-dark layer that would be that light blue. And the print shop had concerns about the glow-in-the-dark layer, which is totally fair because it's not completely clear. It's like a semi-opaque. They basically compiled this secondary version of the poster. It was just one day I looked out and there is this other version of a poster that I never thought to make. Sometimes, you have print shops that have more control over the work, some that are just working directly with you and kind of do what you have in mind.
Where do people find you? What's your website? And best way to find your art. I'm obviously looking at his website here, but can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, you can find my portfolio and my store on unstoppablecreativeforces.com, or you can find me on Instagram is kind of where I post most of my stuff. And that my tag is Nemo, Nemo, and then noai, noai. Yeah. And then soon coming to Patreon, because I'm going to start doing art prints, got a print club and sticker club.
Okay, let the weenposterlove group know about it too, please, along the way. We love that shit.
I'm thinking about doing a Booganish worm.
The poster you just did for Minneapolis, honestly, so the guy that is like my co-admin, Ian, said that it was his second favorite poster that he's seen come across this page, period. And that was kind of got me in that conversation about that. That was kind of part of why I reached out to you. Love it. It's fucking phenomenal. And I'm glad that you're a fan of Ween as well, because he did a lot of the right things in this poster. And man, I'm instantly a fan, Nemo. I'm sorry I'm a little low on facts and high on opinions. Respect to Jesse, Nemo, Pruet. Respect. Thank you so much for being on the show. Appreciate it.